Oh, all right. We're live. Sorry for the late podcast this week. I had to replace one ginger for another. Santino is gone on vacation. So we got Mr. Pepe Sylvia. Hello.
What up? Yeah.
That's not your real name. How did you come up with that name, that pseudonym?
Have you ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yeah, a lot.
It's from one of those episodes where Charlie is receiving mail when him and Matt get a job in the office, and they're trying to figure out who Pepe Sylvia is. And it's like this mysterious character, so I just ran with it.
I wish I would have known that because I love that show so much. It's like one of the funniest shows to me.
Yeah, it's like that scene has like a famous meme where he's like got the board out everywhere and he's like circling everything and just like trying to put the mystery together.
Okay, yeah, I know that meme.
Yeah.
So I got some news today. I'm a big fan of one Mr. Peyton Talbot. Check out what I just got in the mail today.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be happier. I got all 3 shirts before they sold out. It's got some demonic shit on the back. I love it. It's just a little dot. I had to be careful wearing that at the gym today, though, because there's like a few guys that have fought him in the gym. I wasn't going to like go bragging about it. Like, look at my shirt. Just had to be low key.
His mom's low key hot. Do you follow her on Instagram?
I need to follow her on Instagram. She's nice.
Yeah, she's like a professional, bikini model. I'm pretty sure,
and a plastic surgeon. You got to get a woman that could do it all.
I know.
Man, I've been seeing a plastic surgeon like fucking once a week at this point because I keep getting my head split open. I just healed up from this giant cut here, and now I don't know if you can see the camera, but I clashed heads and got another little cut on my head. So no good.
Is that the one from Miss Canuto?
No, that was my nose. So, man, I go through the ringer. Henry Corrales is like, I don't know. He loves me, hates me sometimes, but he always asks me to spar. And he uppercutted me and bust my nose. And then, Gigi Canuto came down with Casey, and I was rolling, and her heel hit my nose, and I just exploded blood. I'm like not getting my ass kicked, but for some reason I keep getting these like insane bloody messes. It's kind of frustrating.
What'd you think of UFC 302?
Dude, it was boring, and I didn't make money. That's the other issue too. That was like a rough week for me. I kept doing okay, but I kept taking these really big, like long shots on really obscure props, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. I think I ended up down like $2,000 or something like that. How did you make out on it?
That's like nothing for you. So I did pretty well, but as far as like the event as a whole, I didn't really pay too close of attention to it. Like I was out doing stuff. I was like watching fights here and there, just keeping up on my phone. And then I watched the main card. Overall, I thought it was a pretty weak card from entertainment perspective and just like the people that they had on it for a pay-per-view. I was kind of thinking that the UFC kind of puts on too many pay-per-view cards. And like some of them are really stacked, and then others I feel like they just kind of force it. And this one was just pretty weak. I mean, without the main event, it was a super weak event. I was very impressed with Islam in the main event. I had a big bet on the submission. So
you got bailed out there. That was one of those.
But how sick was that? That was such a sick transition to grab that sub. So yeah, without that, I probably would have broke even, but I was up like 3 or 4 units on the night.
Nice. Well, good job. I know a lot of people on my Discord, they whenever you miss a bet, they always put the trash emoji. If Mickey Gall would have won, which was very much in the reach, like if there was a Mickey Gall scorecard, especially on that night when the scorecards were so insane, you wouldn't have been shocked. The whole night would have been so different, right? Then these people don't have a lot to complain about.
It was kind of tough for me because I usually I bet a lot of underdogs, and it was kind of like a juice heavy type of card. The one spot that I did that I was like upset about that I bet was Morono under with the Nico Price, and it's just like I've been burned so many times chasing unders with like these older guys, and you don't really want to pick a side, so you go with the under, and then it just cruises easily to decision, and you have to lay juice on it. So I thought Morono might be able to get a sub later in the fight, but I just didn't have a great read on that fight, and it's just been the year of the old fighters making the resurgence.
And not even good fighters either. That's the other issue, is you don't really have to even be good. Like that fight, I said this on the podcast last week talking about Morono. I said, I pick against him every single fight and he always ends up winning. I said, this is the week where I'm actually going to pick him. So everybody should do the opposite and pick Nico Price, even though it doesn't make sense. And then of course it's exactly how it went.
I've literally never bet Alex Morono money line in any fight. I've never just been a big fan of his game, but I didn't have the balls to play Nico, which obviously he was like one of the only underdogs that came through.
I kept smacking him live. I saw Alex huffing and puffing after the first round, and I'm like, man, like Nico's horrible, but he's going to stay in that face. And, Morono, just when I kept seeing him spin over and over and over again, usually when you start spinning, that's like desperation. That's when like, this guy has no other option. He feels like he has to go for a Hail Mary. Guy like, is establishing a beautiful jab and then just starts spinning out of nowhere. So, maybe something to keep an eye on for live betting.
Yeah. And it's like a lot of times, and we've seen it so many times this year, where the old fighter is just getting undervalued so much and they're just coming through like OSP, Chris Weidman. Like we pretty much see it every week. So it's like sometimes it sucks to like bet those kind of fighters, but sometimes it's better to just plug your nose and just like make a small bet on it.
You know what? I said this last week too. I kind of said this. Were you on Zaleski last week?
No, I was actually big on Brown.
Okay. I said this last week. I said the early numbers on Zaleski were pretty good. However, this is a fight I think he's going to lose. I get where the angle's from and I could totally see it happening, but I'm like, kind of along that same line of thinking, like, everyone's going, man, but he's older, but the resurgence and no USADA and everyone was hype training this one. And I'm like, I don't think so. I hate to go against the grain. I get the value, but
Evan was like giving me shit all week after, because I made Brown my biggest play of the week. And he's like, oh, you love Randy Brown. He's so mid. He's this, he's that. And it's like, at the end of the day, he's 7-1 in decisions. He knows how to win fights. He fights smart for your money. Yeah, he's had a couple durability issues in the past, but Zaleski's never been that big of a hitter. You know what I mean? And Zaleski wins on thin margins these days too. So it's like, it just made so much sense for Brown to win that fight. And obviously, it was a 29-28. He could have gotten him out earlier with the knee. Zaleski ate that shit, but
I have one question because I did miss this. I'm back to working on Saturday, so I miss a lot of the fights. I didn't get to see it, but Jake Matthews, I had a big bet on Jake Matthews. Did he clearly win that fight, but it was close, or how did that go?
Yeah, I actually didn't watch that one. I was just keeping up on Discord, but from what I gather, he won a pretty clear 29-28, but there was instances where he could have let the round slip away. Like he reversed row in round 3 to end up on top and getting off some ground and pound to steal round 3. But I think round 1 was split. Round 2 was Matthews. And then round 3, he ended up winning because of that reversal.
All right. See, that was a sharp bet, you motherfuckers, man. All right. Let's get into this week. I did like that bet. It was a bet I posted pretty early. And the reason that I liked it so much is just like the skill level I thought was drastically different. I really thought that was Matthews' fight to lose. And, I get it's a little bit of juice, but when it was that close and there's such a discrepancy in actual skill, and then everyone goes, well, which Matthews is going to show up? And, that's a fair, valid question. But when I get that big of a skill discrepancy, I'm happy with that. I'm not too upset.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of times with these fights, and it's something that I always talk about, is you just have to know how to contextualize all their previous performances. And, there's usually an overvalue because, people aren't doing that properly. So I think Phil Rowe is kind of getting overvalued for some of his performances, when if you go through each of them, there's kind of a reason why he was able to perform well in those fights. And
well, you're fighting the worst of the worst guys and guys
exactly.
that are like almost retired. And then you have Matthews fighting huge super prospects and doing really well against them.
And the Nico Price fight, he damn near lost too. So it's like, yeah, it looks good. He got the round 3 KO, but I don't know how, I think that's a pretty 50-50 fight more often than not with him and Nico.
All right. Well, let's jump into this week. We're both tired. I just got back from practice. You had to socialize with your family, which is always exhausting.
Yeah, and I worked earlier today too.
God, I have to work tonight. Okay, so then let's get started with the very first fight of the night. We have Puja Tomar versus Rayanne Amanda. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
It's only Wednesday. I haven't finished all of my tape for the week, and this is one that I've just done brief tape on just to get a read on Puja's game because I wasn't really familiar with her. A lot of times when we see these new fighters coming from untapped in markets like India, a lot of times, I'm looking to back them because I know the UFC likes to expand their reach. And
there was something that they saw in her that she needs to be the representative for the new region. Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty slim pickings, right, over in India. But when I was looking at her, she didn't really look that great. I know her record's pretty spotty, some really bad losses early in her career, but I think she could be making improvements. She probably is. That being said, I don't know. I'm not that interested in betting either of these fighters. I think Rayanne is a solid fighter. She's very small. She fought at 105 after she lost contenders, but they're both super small, so I don't really think the size will play against either of them. I think Rayanne is the rightful favorite, but I don't really want to bet this fight.
This was funny. We had our text conversation this morning, or our Instagram conversation this morning, and I was like, hey, I think Puja is the side. I like her. And it's interesting. I did a brief overview of her record just now, and it's not a bad record. She lost to Stamp Fairtech. She lost to an undefeated girl in one, or 2 undefeated girls in one. Honestly, I really view one as super high level shit. Every time I watch that product, I'm like, man, these guys in this promotion in one make a lot less mistakes than guys in the UFC, which is weird. Yeah. And who knows how they would actually fare if they all fought, but the level of striking seems really high. And then the level of fight IQ seems pretty high in that promotion. But you're right. They're both really small, and Rayanne is good. She's mean. She's aggressive. I really like her. So the text conversation, you were like, I would never bet Rayanne north of minus 200. And then I send you a screenshot of a $6,300 bet on Rayanne that I sent. But the reason that I did it, it's not like I feel ultimate conviction. I actually put that bet in before tape, but the UFC 302 had just gotten finished. Honestly, half of betting is just understanding narratives. I put that in, and now she's minus 300. That gives me a lot more to play with. I can just fuck around. I can hedge out of it. I can arbitrage for guaranteed profit. Like, there's a lot of options that I have, right? The second that you have an Indian fighter, people are like, oh, horrible, horrible, horrible. I'm a lot more on the same line of thinking as you, and I don't understand how she's going to cover the price unless she grapples the entire time. Because standing, I think Puja's pretty decent. Like, she's a good fighter standing. The only time we saw, like, I was looking for takedown defense, and honestly, I couldn't really find that in any recent film. That was the only issue. She fought Stamp Fairtex, and I think she tried to go for a throw or something and ended up giving up her back and getting taken down that way, or something along those lines. So we don't really know what the takedown defense looks like. Honestly, I think her striking is much cleaner and much sharper than Rayanne's. Rayanne's is high volume, but it's a lot of like wide swings and just kind of aggro, aggressive shit. So, I'm going to look to eventually get out of this play on Rayanne. I have some options now. I hope this line keeps running, and then I can get a real nice number on Puja. I think Puja is the side, at least for me, at these kind of numbers. Minus 300 in a fight where it's probably going to end up being a lot of striking, and the girl is a striking specialist. It's not that enticing for me. So I'm going to go with Puja on this one.
Yeah, the other thing is we saw in her last fight, and I bet Talita against Hayoni in her last fight, and she got fucked on that one. Hayoni should have won that. So she's solid, but she even showed in that fight that she's got some cardio issues. So I don't know how dominant she's going to be as the fight wears on, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was able to get grappling going early and just expose her round 1 sub or something. So it's just one I don't really want anything to do with.
See, that's where there's a couple fights on this card. I'm like, well, there's no point in doing a pre-bet. You just got to go for round 1 and then you can work your way in.
Yeah,
but you're right. This fight could be alarming one way or the other. Say Hayani can't get her grappling going round 1. That live line is going to narrow like nobody's business. But if she takes her down and is just beating her ass, I think the cardio issue might be overstated just a tad bit. She went 5 rounds with the Corsi, and she was pushing a pace the whole time. True. That fight was a little bit interesting and weird. Actually, I rewatched that fight. I didn't think it was that bad of a decision. She kind of let Talita press forward a lot in that 3rd round.
Yeah, I had Talita, and I haven't rewatched it, but I just remember live just being like, yo, I just got fucking bailed out.
I had Talita as well, but I thought that fight was going to go a lot different.
Yeah, I thought she would be able to expose her a little bit with the grappling.
All right, next up, we have Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. Let me pull up the odds. Let me see. Because this one's pretty interesting. Do you want to go first on this one? Did you tape this?
Sure, yeah. This is one where I don't really understand why the odds are so wide. We got Stamann at plus 200. I actually bet him at plus 170. So I'm usually not this off on, where the line is going to be and where the market is going to go with a fight. So I've been pretty surprised with the amount of Lapilus love. And our boy Clint had posted a parlay with Lapilus, and I messaged him. I'm like, I don't know why or how you can feel so safe parlaying Taylor against Cody Stamann in this spot. Just because we've seen Lapilus's, he's got a negative grappling in this fight. I know he did decent against Loughran and Farid. He held his own, but Cody's a solid wrestler, man. And if you go through his record, all of his losses are against super high end talent. I get he's older, but he's a solid wrestler. I know his control's not the greatest, but what I noticed a lot in Taylor's recent fights is he's been able to work his way up, but it's usually along the fence. I think if Cody can get some takedowns in open space, I think Taylor could be in trouble. So I like Stamann here quite a bit. I know he's at a huge reach disadvantage, but I mean, at plus 200 now, I think it's pretty crazy.
I'm pretty far on the other end of this spectrum on this fight. I bet Taylor, again, right after the fights were over, I bet Taylor at minus 178 to win 2,000.
So you're the reason why the line is exploded.
Yeah. I posted that one and I posted another one, and both lines are pretty significant in my favor.
Well, tell me on this one then.
You know what? So here's the thing. I value Farid a lot. I think Farid is incredible. Javid and Farid both are really, really good. They came into Fight Ready not that long ago. I watched them spar. I watched them wrestle. Those guys are insane pace pushers. They never get tired. And when one takedown doesn't work, they'll swing around the edges. They're constantly chain wrestling. I understand you're kind of well, actually, and here's the bigger thing too. I know you're a big Angie Hill guy, and she's kind of the example I always use when she fought Lupi versus when she fought Virna, right? Yeah. One girl's a jiu-jitsu girl with shit takedowns, and the other girl's good takedowns and shit jiu-jitsu. Well, Farid and Javid can do both, and they're one of the rare guys. They have excellent on both things, and I think that's what gave Lapilus a lot, right? Cody Stamann takes him down. First of all, good luck trying that. Lapilus has kind of built a game around counter wrestling and then counter striking. And a basic wrestler as simple as Stamann, yes, he is good. Yes, he redirects stuff. He's a real power guy. But man, this is something that Taylor just sees all the time. Farid's a little different because he chain wrestles. He never dies cardio wise, and his striking's really good too, right? It's not like he was completely outmatched in the striking. Lapilus has looked like his pre-UFC tape to me looked really, really good to me. Especially the Marcus Breno fight. I rate that guy super, super high. I think that dude is super talented. He beat the shit out of him. I just think this is a counter grappling, pick him apart. Honestly, probably even knock him out later in the fight. I don't have much else to say about that. It's hard for me to see how Stamann wins this. Is he going to strike with him? If he can't wrestle, if he wrestles so much, I feel he's going to get tired. Lapilus is a pretty crafty guy. He knows how to skirt around the edges too. He's not afraid to counterpunch. And usually I hate that style when he's the one backing up the entire time. But man, he is a sniper and he's got a really good game for himself. So I like Taylor.
I will say, like, if you go back through his record, Taylor, his UFC losses, or he lost to Eric Perez. I mean, I get that was a long ass time ago, but I kind of just going through the fights where he had issues. The Josh Hill fight was super close, and the Denise fight in RCC he lost. That guy's super solid. We all know how legit he is, but in the Perez and Hill fight, he had some issues with the grappling too. And as the fight wears on, it seems like it's not that he gasses out, but he gives up more control easier. So I think I don't know. I'm not as bullish, so we'll see how it plays out. But I could definitely see Cody having some grappling success. If it's on the feet for all 15 minutes, obviously Stamann's probably fucked because of the reach disadvantage, but he's not that bad of a striker where it's like a complete blowout. But he will need to mix in some takedowns. If
that's the only way I think he has it. And the thing is like as a grappler, like you start missing one or two, your confidence goes out the window, and then it means nothing.
But he's not like an amateur, man. Like he's got plenty of experience. Like he's not. I don't think he's going to get too dissuaded.
I think Taylor's going to knock him out. I think Kalen Callan has a crazy, insane block head, and it's been weird. Like I was there for the Cody Stamann when he fought Said Nurmagomedov. It was one of the most bizarre fights ever. It just kind of was like, I give up. I lost this one. And I get it. The choke was tight. That was
sick, dude. I thought that was a sick, super slick transition that Said hit him with. And, he's obviously elite with his front chokes. I was super impressed with his performance there. And, he's replicated that since. So I don't hold that against Stamann at all.
He beat Eddie Wineland, Luan Lacerda, and then lost to Douglas. I mean, I don't know, man. This is the kind of matchup I like. Grappling has been so nerfed lately, which sucks for somebody like me, right? Yeah. Now I actually have to learn how to throw hands just in my own personal career because takedowns mean nothing to anybody anymore. Yeah. Realistically, this is one of those fights where maybe Stamann has 4 minutes and 45 seconds of top control. Lapilus gets up, cracks him 2 times, and they give him the whole round, which is a really frustrating angle as a bettor.
Yeah, he did lose the Andrade fight, but I thought you could make a decent case for him winning. It was extremely close, and Douglas Andrade is solid. Like, I rate him pretty highly. I know he's getting up there in age, but I think he's still a solid. I know
he's fundamental. He's good.
Yeah.
But maybe this is kind of like the Matthews one last week. Like Stamann's going life or death with a 40-year-old, Douglas de Andrade, and Lapilus is beating Callan Loughran, who was a Cage Warriors champion and just dominated his last fight. So that's a good prospect, and he showed levels.
Stamann versus Callan would be an interesting fight. I'll just say that.
Be like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. I will lead this one. This one is really, really fascinating to me because I feel like Eduarda Moura, she's kind of the Moura aura here. She's like the aura fighter of the week. She's on this fast track to start fighting bigger and better people, trains with Jalton Almeida, and it's got kind of that same style. But honestly, looking at this fight, like, I think Denise Gomes is a bad matchup for her. And usually when I at least this year, when I've gotten into this kind of back and forth in my head, like, man, I know like the UFC would love to see Eduarda win and she's undefeated and this is the aura around her. Usually she's going to win, but I feel like the other person has a really good shot. I just don't bet it because, I'm like, I'm not going to get in front of that train, but I don't want to lose money on it either. I like Gomes. Like, that girl is mean as fuck. What I like about her, so first and foremost, like, Eduarda Moura has fought the two smallest girls possible. In her UFC debut and then Contender Series. Like, those were literally the smallest girls she possibly could have fought. Both probably the wrong weight class, a little chunky. Denise is a lot bigger, and she's mean, and she stays in your face, and she can grapple a little bit, right? She's got really nice foot sweeps, trips. She gets her hooks in. She starts standing up, and she's willing to stay right there and go band for band with you, right? She's down to swing. If Moura doesn't get this done early, we don't really know what her cardio looks like way later into fights, especially at this level. I remember betting against Denise in Invicta, right? She fought that girl. What's her name?
She used to be pretty ass. She's made a lot of improvements since then.
Huge improvements. And this is the fight where I found that out. When she fought Milena Dudieva, I was huge on Dudieva because that girl's good, man. She can wrestle, she could strike. And she mopped the floor with Denise for the entire, first and second round. And then round 3, Gomes was like, all right, it's my time now. And that was something we hadn't really seen before. Usually she had faded out pretty hard and round 3 was the worst for her, but she stuck right in that face and got that finish. Pretty competitive fight at times with Angela Hill. She cracked Hill quite a few times. She took Hill down. She reversed Hill a couple times. Like, that was a pretty competitive fight. I won't put too much into the Yargway fight because it was such a quick knockout. So it's impossible to say. Obviously they didn't set her up to win there. Bruna Brazil, I like Bruna Brazil. I know a lot of people don't. She won that fight, beat the shit out of her. And then Loma Lumbukmi, Hani Amanda, like, she's got really good wins, man. I think that, in a vacuum with no aura, and I really mean this, I would go with Denise Gomes here, but I'm probably not going to get in the way of the Moura train. So I'll pick Denise just for kicks and giggles.
Well, I think there's a few things that stand out, and I agree it's a pretty fascinating fight. The other one narrative that you didn't mention is that it's Gay Pride Month, and she's openly dating Carol Hosa, Denise Gomes. So
nice.
She fits into that category. But as far as like their career-wise, obviously Denise's fought the way better competition, and what I kind of like about her career is that she's already taken losses before, which I kind of like to see with prospects. We don't really know how Moura's going to react to adversity. We already know that Denise can fight through adversity. I didn't really rate her that high coming into the UFC, and I'll admit I got my ass handed to me betting Bruna Brazil against her, but she showed that she's actually pretty damn solid. What I will say is what is a worry for this particular matchup is Moura does look like she has pretty good grappling.
Top control.
Yeah, and Angela Hill, who's not the most physical strawweight, and Moura looks huge. She kind of looks like a size bully in there. Angela Hill got her down, I think, 5 times and was able to have grappling success. It's kind of hard to project where Moura is as far as like a prospect. What her ceiling is, where her true skills are, because she's been getting she's fought like 2 of the worst people you could fight. She hasn't faced much adversity. She kind of
One thing I wanted to bring up, sorry, really quickly, just kind of like what you're saying, in that fight with Conejo, who's like the worst possible, the very first sequence that she did was she came out and she pulled guard.
I know.
And then swept her right from there.
See, that's a big issue. I could see her doing that, like, if she's not able to have success or like get her out early. I could see things going downhill super fast for her. And Gomes has, she has that rare ability to actually like hurt these girls pretty bad at 115. It's rare that you see multiple knockouts in the UFC already. So,
what this fight reminds me of a little bit?
Interesting matchup. The under could be interesting, but then I don't think it's a great price, but I think Gomes is the side, to be honest.
I do too, man. I'm actually right there with you. And you know what this fight reminds me a lot of, in a weird way, is Jacqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes.
Yeah.
A girl who's just not excellent, but like is just there all the time.
Yeah. And okay, so this won't be Moura's first time fighting in the U.S. because she fought on Contenders, but fighting in front of a big crowd now in the U.S., it's a bit different than fighting in Brazil against like the smallest and worst grappler that they could find. Like that was just like a pure squash match.
I really wanted to love Moura.
This is a true scrap. So, yeah, Gomes is an interesting dog. Well, I haven't yet, full disclosure, but I'm definitely, I have my fingers hovering over it.
I think we should just do it live on the podcast like we did on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, just randomly start flipping lines.
All right. All right, let's go next one. So we have, good. I'm glad we're in agreement on some stuff. Next one, we have Daniel Marcos versus John Castaneda. Go ahead and go first on this one.
Okay. This one, I kind of have, I don't know, for some reason I feel like we're going to be on opposite sides for this one. But I like Castaneda in this spot. I just think he's the more well-rounded guy. He's fought the better competition. And I'm a pretty big fan of his game. The Kung Ho Kang fight was a pretty impressive win. I know the guy doesn't have the prettiest record, but he's a very slick and solid striker, very well-rounded himself. And Castaneda, digging deep and doing what he had to do to win that fight is good. I'm a big fan of John. He's improved quite a bit once he started training full-time at the academy. And I like that he went over to Factory a little bit for this because I think Gutierrez is a great person to train with, to do what Marcos's game is. So, yeah, I think Marcos showed in that Davy Grant fight that if you give him a lot to deal with and to think about, he kind of freezes up a little bit. So, yeah, I think Castaneda should be able to have the output advantage, the grappling upside. Like, he's fought the way better people. He's dealt with a lot more adversity throughout his career. I think he's a solid underdog play. What do you think?
Is he still an underdog? I thought the line flipped.
Yeah, just about. I think you can get some plus 100s around.
Okay. Yeah, I saw this line flipping, and I was like, okay, well, this is my time to launch Marcos. I love John. I have been on John in every single fight that he's had. I love the guy. The guy, he's just kind of an ultra veteran, right? Like, we talk about these guys that just are so well-rounded, have great fight IQ. I love how he switches stances all the time. And he's one guy that actually like thinks and knows what he's doing. I think Marcos got some aura, man. I really do. I think Marcos got the aura. He has one of the most beautiful jabs, one of the most beautiful low kicks. And I know a lot of people are going to point to the fact that, oh, well, Castaneda is going to fight southpaw a lot, which is true because that will eliminate the calf kick. But I don't think that Marcos is even going to be afraid to throw inside low kicks also. Dude is a good striker, man. Both of these guys are great strikers, but in very, very different ways. Here's the biggest thing to me in this fight. I think the front kick. We saw him using it a lot against AQ, that front kick. I think that will change everything. It was weird. We got into this weird mode where we kind of thought Castaneda had gas issues, but he had never shown anything before that. And then we kind of thought he did, and then we're like, okay, actually, no, he doesn't. But I really wonder if Marco starts putting that foot in his gut, what do we start seeing, right? And a couple times we see Castaneda like start to melt just a little bit when things aren't always going his way. When he feels his rhythm, he's hard to stop, man. When he's flowing and he's feeling it, he's so freaking good. This is a really, really competitive fight. Mm-hmm. I think Marcos is just kind of coming into his own here. I love his jab. I love his front kick. He's got these really long tools, and then we start seeing him, mix it up and put it together. A little taller, a little longer. Good takedown defense. Like I think the dude is super legit. So I hope this line will stay kind of flipped and Castaneda become the favorite again. I would like a nice little Marcos play.
Yeah, I figured you might be on Marcos. Do you think Castaneda will be able to back him up? Because even AQ was able to back him up in certain instances. I think he just kind of was like getting a little outmatched with the head movement and defensive striking, because Marcos is very sound with his defense. And I think that's one advantage he definitely has against Castaneda. Castaneda doesn't have like terrible head defense, but I think Marcos probably sees shots coming a little bit better than Castaneda.
Well, it's because he does less. And sometimes that is actually the most important thing. The thing I love about Castaneda is also the thing I hate about Castaneda. He switches stances so much that he's always open, right? Like if you start firing shots up the middle, he's going to get hit because he's in transition, because his footwork, he's changing stances. Now, the good part for him is, one, he knows what he's doing when he switches stances, but that does open him up. Where you kind of look at a guy like Daniel Marcos, like think about Jose Aldo, right? He doesn't switch stances at all. He knows like, all right, I'm going to check a kick here. I'm going to have defense here, head movement, and then I'll counter back. That's kind of how Marcos is. He's able to see everything because he's got his stance. I will say this about AQ. I've sparred a lot with him. That's a very scary guy to spar. He's got very good boxing, and he doesn't take a step back. Like he's going to be in your face the whole time. So I think that style is easier to back somebody up than a guy like Castaneda, because his feet are always switching back and forth, which kind of gives up ground just a tad bit. But honestly, this is a fight, again, kind of like the Lapilus fight. I don't think even fighting on the back foot is a bad thing. If Castaneda is coming forward the whole time, but he's getting pieced up by jabs and the movement of Marcos and the front kicks, like, you know, theoretically, I don't love that backing up, but I think he could still win that fight even on the back foot.
So do you give any credence to Castaneda being able to have a wrestling advantage? Because I know he's probably going to pursue it, and Marcos, his takedown defenses look really excellent, superb. He does all the right things, but he's been fighting against like lower level guys, lower level grapplers, not the best wrestlers. I think Castaneda is probably going to be the best wrestler he's faced. It would be interesting to see what happens once this gets to the ground.
I do agree with you. It is the best one he's faced. I just think that we're kind of in the new age of MMA. And this is why, like, I think this has been my best year betting ever. We're just in the new age of MMA where takedowns mean so little. If you're not able to submit somebody, you can't just dominate them on the ground. Like, even look at Islam. I know he had staff and whatever, but like he had trouble taking down Poirier. And Poirier's got horrible takedown defense, and he's willing to jump on his back. And he didn't ride out every single round on top and just maul him, right? We're in the new age of MMA where get-ups are a lot easier. Castaneda's got a real small body, which just naturally makes jiu-jitsu a little bit harder for him. It's not his entire game, right? He's kind of a volume striker, a pace guy. You know, I don't see him doing 15 minutes of wrestling, especially against a guy that is that tall, that long, that hard to take down. So I think honestly, that's probably his worst game plan. If I were to come up with a game plan for Castaneda, it would be to show wrestling right back to the striking, because you don't want him to tire out trying to chase it.
Unless he can get a submission. Like we haven't really seen Marcos's jiu-jitsu being tested at all, really.
I think it's probably good, man. Like at this stage, you just kind of have to assume that everybody's like pretty solid. There's always kind of talk about it in the gym with Marcos. Like, man, this kid is really, really good. He fought Brandon Lewis on the Contender Series, which Lewis is not a great fighter, but he is a Robson Moura, like I think a brown belt, maybe a black belt now. So that guy had some jiu-jitsu chops, and he couldn't do shit to Marcos. Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah, that's another compelling fight.
All right. Now we have your main event of the evening. We have Miss Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa.
Dude, I love these fights of like the just random like 125ers that like used to be decent that just rotate wins and losses. Like this is the for me, this is like the definition of just like a straight up coin flip, right? Like, first of all, we don't really know what we're getting out of either girl. Like, they both have looked pretty bad in their past few fights.
One has lost 4 in a row, and the other one has looked like she was going to retire for a few years now.
I know. So it's like, it's weird matchmaking. Like, they already fought too. I don't know why the UFC does all these pointless rematches. You know, like
they already fought. I didn't see that.
Like, yeah, they already fought. Fucking like we were talking about the Nico Price Morono one earlier. Like, it's just the most pointless rematch. Like, what are we doing here? And yeah, Andrea Lee beat her. It was mildly competitive. It's just one of those fights where it's like MDR is trying to get her down the whole time, and Andrea Lee's landing, the better damage on the feet. I don't think I'm going to bet this one. I was kind of interested in Andrea Lee at like a pick'em price. I think it could have been a buy low spot on her, but now that there's been some money on her, like I don't want anything to do with it. And we see in these rematches all the time, they never really go the same way as like the first one. And the first one was Andrea Lee by decision. So I don't know. I'm rooting for her because I'm a big Andrea Lee fan. I like Tony Kelly too. I know he's a friend of the show. I know they're going to be doing what they need to get her ready, but I didn't like what I saw against the Maverick fight. And then later after the fight, I don't know if you saw, she was like, "Oh, I was feeling sick leading up to fight week, but I didn't want to pull out." So it's just hard to trust either girl in this spot.
Did you know that Montana's only 29?
I know, it's crazy, but it kind of looks like she's like almost done with her career. Like on her Instagram, she's like a lot of the attention is like training her daughter. It seems like they're trying to get her into wrestling and stuff.
I'm just going to go with the girl with better feet in this one. I think that Montana De La Rosa got better arches. And so for that, no. Yes, but no. I think I actually like Montana here. And a few reasons why. Andrea Lee has kind of made first of all, she's lost 4 in a row, which already is like, that sucks. I know it's like high level competition and stuff like that. But that really sucks. I was on Montana pretty decent size when she fought JJ Aldrich. And the part that I didn't know, I think they had said this in the fight, that they used to train together and that Montana thought it was really hard to take down JJ. And then you saw that translate to the fight. She never even tried.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that was so frustrating. I had a big bet on Montana too.
Yeah, not even try. And it's like, man, I've trained with a lot of guys, and even if it was hard to take them down, when it comes time to fight, like I know where my bread and butter is. That's her whole shit. Because I can't imagine if it was hard to take down JJ in the training room that she had much success on the feet either, right? So you're giving yourself zero chance to win this. And even then, it was still kind of competitive. It wasn't like a crazy blowout or anything. Man, Andrea is just like wide and kind of clunky. And I wanted to think Montana was way slower than her, but they're kind of like the same speed. It's not like a huge speed or volume discrepancy either way. The way in that Maverick fight, I was watching Andrea Lee throw like kicks. It looked like cardio kickboxing. And I think she is good and she is tough, but I think that Montana's hands are a little cleaner. And I would say that she has the grappling upside. Like if she does want to start wrestling, I think she's a pretty decent wrestler, at least these days. She could take her down and top time her. She has good control once she gets to the top. She's younger, that doesn't matter as much with the women, but like in a fight like this, like you said, this coin flip, I'll take the plus money, especially as the money starts flowing in on Andrea Lee. Like literally you can bet Montana. And if that first round is somewhat close, it's going to give you a good spot to jump out if you're not really sure or keep adding on.
And what I will say is that when they fought the first time, since then, Montana's striking has improved. Like it used to be ass, like really bad, but she can still be like mildly competitive in certain striking fights. And, and Andrea Lee's just always struggled with her takedown defense. She freaking lost to Roxanne because of that. And like, she's never had good cardio either. So yeah, I agree. Montana's definitely the side, especially at underdog odds.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me. I like it. And then having Tony on the podcast, and he was kind of telling us about the training situation. It just doesn't seem that good. I love Tony Kelly. That dude is hilarious to me. I trained with him a lot over the years. But if he's the one running the entire camp, like, interesting. It just sounded like there wasn't a ton of support. Montana and her husband, was it Mark De La Rosa?
Yeah.
They have a decent stable of fighters. My ex-girlfriend just fought one of their girls, but that girl was tough and strong, and it seems like they, come prepared. And I don't know, think she's a little faster, a little younger, maybe a better grappling upside. I really like her top game. She's real sticky and real long, which just makes things really difficult for people.
Yeah. She's low-key one of the hottest girls on the roster, too.
She's not too bad. She's not
like
too
super
bad.
low key.
All right. Next up, we have Brad Katona versus Jesse Butler. What say
do you have
you?
anything on this one? I haven't really given it too much thought yet. It seems like they're trying to give Brad an easy win. Katona's solid. Like, he's definitely serviceable. And I don't think this guy is UFC level. It kind of seems like a levels fight. So I think he'll either grind him out or get a late submission.
Yeah, I think this is the spot for Katona to finish. You know, it was interesting, like, seeing the takes. This is the only fight I really didn't, like, look at heavily.
Yeah.
Let's look at his record. The thing about him, right? So he knocked out, or I'm sorry. Yeah, he knocked out Masio Follin. I had Follin in that fight. I thought Masio was pretty solid, and he knocked him the fuck out. He beat Luis Luna, who's like 40 years old and kind of a short, shitty guy. Beat Dimitri Ivy, which is a good win. Ray Trujillo. He's got some good wins. He's not bad. I think Katona legitimately is like one of the better guys in the world. I think he is actually legit very, very good. He's super high volume, good takedown defense. He doesn't make any mistakes. I think Armfield's just that good too. Like, Armfield is the dude's a hitter. He can wrestle. He's very talented. That was just a competitive fight. And, you know, arguments could have been made either way, but I think you're exactly right. Like, this is a setup spot for Katona to come in, look impressive, get Canada back on the map. I do like Butler probably more than people do, and I like Katona more than people do. But yeah, I don't think there's a need to overthink this one. Katona's got a rock solid chin and doesn't make mistakes. So how does Butler even win this fight? You know?
Yeah. What do you think it would be more likely, a KO or a submission?
Probably a KO. Like, especially having seen Butler's last fight, his chin is up in the air constantly when he's striking. And Katona is a lot of things, but he does put some volume together. And like, I couldn't believe how much punishment Armfield was absorbing too, and not blinking. I thought that was pretty impressive on Armfield's part.
And Cody Gibson took an ass beating too.
That one was crazy.
Katona.
Like,
yeah,
200. You know, if you tell me Katona's going to have 200 punches to try to knock out Jesse Butler, like, I'm willing to take those odds.
Yeah, unless he like tries to grapple him, like, obviously he could have success with that. He's a pretty solid wrestler.
That's true.
His submissions are pretty solid, but yeah, I think this is one of those fights where, you know, I'm always looking to target these kind of fights where there's a clear cardio dynamic, because the round props are always priced a lot bigger in the later rounds. And I think that's like one of the bigger edges with MMA betting, is being able to target these situations. So yeah, I'll probably be looking to play some props on this one.
Man, I've been getting my ass kicked with those. It's because I'm going full insane person.
You should have tailed me on the Angela Hill sub ones.
Oh man, yeah. You'd give me a good case for Luana, and I was like, man, that's interesting. He pulled the rug out from under me.
Well, it's all a numbers game, right?
Yeah, of course. There were some crazy ones. Even last week, I think I put $500 on Mickey Gall round 2-3 KO.
Yeah,
and I'm watching this fight like, what the fuck? This is like a $12,000 win for me if he gets it, and he's rocking him like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, dude, I'll just claim value. That was a good bet. I think.
Yeah, I mean, part. Like it only takes hitting one of those like every once a month or so to make a ton of money on them.
You know, I've done really well this year, and I hit Max Holloway round 3-4-5 KO.
Ooh.
Which
that must have been beautiful.
I put $1,000 on plus 1,300.
Jeez.
Yeah, so that one went good. I bet Zalal inside the distance when he fought Billy Q. That made me like $8,000. I put 2,000 on that. There's been a couple other ones like where I just go like stupid big, and then it ends up paying off. But then I have like Lupi Godinez knockout round 2-3, and she fucking goes heel hook for heel hook. It's stupid.
I know. Well, you know, shoot or shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't regret it, and I know I can make it back, right? I just take these solid bets, and it affords all my stupid shit.
Yeah, like I last year I had Pfeiffer sub 2, but I also bet Alex Morono sub 2 against Price, and Jamal Hill sub 2 against Alex Pereira. So you know, you can't hit them all.
Well, I would never bet on a black guy to get a submission, just FYI.
Hey.
All right, next fight we have Charlie Radtke versus Carlos Prates. Now, speaking of bets that you hit big, I know you were huge on Radtke last time. I don't want to like one up you or anything, but I've been a Radtke guy since the very start, since the Montalvo days. What is your opinion?
He was down a division, right? He was down that was when he was at 155, right?
Yeah, and he tooled Montalvo, and Montalvo did what he does and talk shit and came back later.
The weight cut was probably too much for him back then, too. It seems like his cardio is a little bit better now.
He's a tweener, it seems like. He seems like he's too small for 70, but he's way too big for 55.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hear your opinion on this one. Okay. I'm really interested.
Yeah, this is a really good fight. I think it's one of the better fights on the card. Right now, I don't have any action on it, but I do think it's a dog or pass kind of fight. I think Radtke's a solid underdog. There's just something holding me back from playing him right now. Like this Prates guy, it's kind of hard what to make of him, but his striking is really solid when he lets his hands go. Like, I think a lot of people are giving him shit against Giles because he was so low volume and, like, not doing much. But it's like when he actually, like, lets his hands go, he's got, like, pinpoint accuracy, and he seems to hit really hard. And Radtke is definitely improving a lot. He's a solid fighter. He's well-rounded. He's a decent grappler. His wrestling's not the greatest. If he had good wrestling, I would be hammering him in this spot because we saw in Contender Series that Mitch Ramirez, who's not the greatest wrestler, was able to pick Prates up and throw him down. And I don't think Mitch has the jiu-jitsu that Radtke does. Radtke's jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. Like in the peers, like in his CFFC fights, he shows his jiu-jitsu.
People don't understand that. People think they know fucking jiu-jitsu, and this is what makes me mad. Guys, I'm a fucking black belt now, all right? I'm allowed to talk my shit. Radtke's jiu-jitsu is fucking phenomenal. I'm just going to tell you guys all that. Like, levels, just watching the shit that he does. By the way, also, I would like to make a call out if I can. I'm sorry to cut you off because I know you had a nice flow. But fucking Gugabe, whatever the fuck his name is, fucking Aussie bitch. I'm just kidding. I don't really mean that. I like him a lot. I really value his opinion. There's only a few opinions that I value, and his is one of them.
He's an OG.
But Craig Jones goes on the Rogan podcast and talks about how good JDM's grappling is. I'm the only guy probably in the space that has been like, no, guys, JDM's grappling is fucking good. I'm telling you guys. Everybody going on podcasts the whole week going, Gilbert Burns is going to kill him. He's going to submit him. It's going to be so fucking easy. And I'm here. I'm like, guys, look over here. I'm telling you, JDM can grapple. I've seen some judo stuff that he did that was excellent. I've seen some reversals, even against that one Russian dude. Like, I'm telling you, he's good. And Gugabe will still be like, yeah, but his wrestling sucks. His grappling sucks. And then Craig Jones gets on there and goes, actually, I learned a lot of shit from JDM. That dude is the truth as a grappler.
Well, to be fair, he does kind of make some dumb decisions, you know, even looking at the Hafez fight, like pulling Gilly and shit like that.
That was horrible, but, you know, I was pretty confident in him in the Gilbert Burns fight because, you know, first of all, as a fighter, you're going to hear all that noise, right? Like people being like, you dumb shit, you almost sacrificed your career to pull Gilly. So you go back to the lab, you watch that fight, and then you go, okay, let me not do that again. I gave him literally his only chance to win, and then you're going to come out much improved. And look what he did against Burns. Like, he defended takedowns, and he looked awesome. So,
yeah.
Sorry, guys. Sorry to go on that rant. I just had to get it off my chest.
But, there's a guy that Radtke fought, Piersma, who's from around the area that I am, and he's
excellent
really
jiu-jitsu.
solid. Yeah, and they had a really awesome back and forth grappling match. And the submission that he got in his following fight was super slick. So the only thing is his wrestling's not that good, and because I thought he was going to be able to submit Blood Diamond. And he was only able to get Blood Diamond down once. But I think the thing that people don't talk about with that fight was that I'm pretty sure that was on short notice. And it was his UFC debut, traveling across the world to Australia or New Zealand, wherever. It was either Australia or New Zealand. And yeah, he was only able to get one takedown, and Blood Diamond got back up pretty quick. So, but I think if he's able to get some wrestling success with this one, he could grab a submission. Prates has been submitted multiple times. He's mostly a Muay Thai guy. He's showing that he's well rounded, but I don't know. I think this is a volatile fight. I think my biggest concern for Radtke is he might slow down if he's not able to get his game going. And Prates kind of seems like the fighter that can build into the fight also. So that wouldn't be good for Radtke, but I think there's a chance that Radtke could just have a lot of wrestling success, keep it somewhat even on the feet. He's got decent power. I think Radtke's submission would be an interesting look. The under is probably solid, under 2.5, and I think the value is definitely on Radtke.
He's not going to submit Prates, unfortunately. Watching these two guys, so I hit both their last fights. I was massive on Prates versus Giles, and boy, what a bad bet that looked like. And then I was also pretty massive on Radtke, and boy, what a good bet that looked like. You know, if I were to bet into the narratives, this is a fight I would have missed badly, right? If I had gotten done with UFC 302 and said, all right, I'm loading the boats on Radtke, I know this line is going to close in. That's how I would have thought about it. And the line has just grown for Prates, which is just super interesting. Prates is another aura guy, right? He looks so good on Contender Series, and you know, Dana White calling him the next Anderson Silva, and then he looked so horrible against Giles, and not horrible, but he let Giles win the first round, and he was losing the second round. He was about to be down 0-2 going into that third round.
And Giles doesn't beat anyone.
Exactly, and he has no chin. You know, I'm kind of looking at this fight like, man, if Radtke can take a shot, and I think he will be able to at 170, we're having a different discussion here. The reason that I don't think he's going to submit him, though, Radtke is a good black belt, but he's not like a super crafty like submission black belt. He's a control and hip control kind of black belt. I think he's very good there. Actually, from what I've heard in the room at VFS and in Thailand, that his wrestling was solid. You know, I think those city kickboxing guys, their whole claim to fame and everything they do is takedown defense and striking, right? And that's kind of their thing. I don't think Radtke is maybe the best cage wrestler, but I think out in the open, he can secure takedowns. And Prates is probably pretty willing to jump on his back and throw some crazy shit. I agree with you. This is dog or pass to me, even though I recognize that Prates got some aura. You know, you could even run an aura parlay. I think you'd be just fine with Moura,
Moura the aura.
Marcos. You know, that's going to pay fat as fuck.
Dude, I'm a little bit different. I like targeting these undefeated guys, these hype prospects, and I like trying to fade them. And a lot of times you're going to miss, but you're usually going to get good prices on them. So
this price just isn't even good enough for me.
Yeah, I'll probably end up getting on a Radtke bet. You know, just rolling over some profit from last fight.
I think you have
like
to,
you
man.
said, with him being a high level black belt and being able to control, like he's going to be able to eat up a lot of minutes if he's able to get him down.
And Prates, he did show a couple times he wants to stand up and get back to his feet, but he also gave up a lot of time on his back too. And in previous fights, he fought that Russian guy and was on his back the entire time. He's crafty off his back. He's got like very purple belt jiu-jitsu where he's always throwing up submissions and inverting and doing crazy shit. So I think he's crafty and good. But man, I think this is like, I can't understand why the steam's coming in on Prates in this fight.
I know. Yeah, I agree. I'll probably end up on something Radtke by the weekend.
I think the way I'm going to probably approach this is like a Prates 2-3 KO. And then
Radtke money line.
Yeah, maybe Radtke money. I just hate betting on both sides.
I know.
Maybe I just have to live bet this fight and kind of see how the first round's going to go.
Yeah.
All right, we've been chatting it up. Sorry, man. It's already an hour in.
No, we're good. Some of these matchups are pretty intriguing.
Dude, I love this fight card so much.
It's a low key super good card. Like just the match. For once, there's like pretty good matchmaking consistently on a card.
And the big boss is gone, which is fun. It's like, open season.
Yeah, what's he on vacation?
Yeah, he's on vacation. The world has come to an end because Santino is in Coronado getting tan. All right. Next up, we have Thiago Moisés and Ľudovít Klein. I feel like I've made you go first every time, and I'm going to do it again because I'm just going to go with whoever you end up choosing. I will switch my opinion.
This is like a really tough matchup to call, in my opinion. And it seems like both of these guys kind of struggle with the same thing. Like they struggle with people who just put a ton of forward pressure on them and make them fight off the back foot. You know, thinking back to, Joel Alvarez and Benoit Saint Denis, those are Moisés' recent losses. Those are guys that just put it on him and he succumbed to the pressure and cracked and wilted a bit. But they're both high level guys, so you can't take too much against them for that. And then Klein, has shown that that's how you beat him too, and that's what Lanier and Trezano were able to do. But I think I'm kind of leaning Klein on this one. I think we could see like one of his patent head kick KOs. I don't really love taking a money line side too much. I'm gonna side with Klein. I think he has less quit in him than Moisés. There's just something wilty about Thiago Moisés. When the going gets tough, he kind of folds. And Klein looks like he's on all the supplements lately. That dude is looking super jacked and strong lately. Yeah, I think he has the more diverse striking. It's a very intriguing fight. Unders could be interesting. It seems like Klein has been submitted in 3 of his 4 losses, and Moisés, like I was saying, has been finished in 3 of his 7 losses. So I think under 2.5, whoever's able to get their game going will be able to get the finish, probably a later finish. I'm going to side with Klein.
That under is plus money. I'm going to hit that like as we're speaking.
Isn't that weird? Because Moisés could definitely be able to get his game going and get a submission. Klein's been submitted multiple times. We were chatting the other day in one of the Discords about during the Cage Warriors fight, because I had no idea that Aiden Lee had submitted Ľudovít Klein on the regionals. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, when Aiden Lee was fighting. So, I mean, if Klein's getting submitted by Aiden Lee, obviously Moisés is pretty slick. I'm sure he could find something too. But yeah, I tend to think that Klein is going to get the knockout.
I kind of am with you, and that's why I wanted to hear what you had to say, because I saw some interesting takes about, Ľudovít fading late. Dude, people, first of all, I love Jai Herbert, man. People don't give Jai Herbert enough credit. That dude is very solid. I like him. I love his game. But I saw some discussion about that, and then Trezano. Dude, Trezano's game is fucked too, man. That guy just like nothing phases him. I love both those guys. This is a fun one. Thiago Moisés came out last time and styled on Mitch Ramirez, and I was like, oh shit, this dude is about it. But I wonder if he's gonna be about it, right? Trading leg kick for leg kick. The southpaw look is super interesting. When you fight a southpaw, they're used to fighting everybody orthodox, and you're not used to fighting southpaws, and so the advantage goes there. Playing the kicking game, which is what Moisés did a lot in the last fight. Well, do you want to kick with Klein? I think ever since that loss to Trezano, Klein has, first of all, upped his supplement intake, refined his game. And I really mean that, and refined his game a lot to kind of fight more within himself, right? Didn't he beat the piss out of Mason Jones? And
that's a good win. I know Mason Jones.
Mason's fucking UFC, good.
He's a legit prospect.
I will hold to this. Mason is fucking incredible. I think that dude is really, really good. And I couldn't believe that outcome, right? You're like, well, Mason will pace him and outstrike him. In round 3, he'll take over. Yeah. This is not how it went.
I think I had Mason Jones late KO props and everything like that. And Klein was the one that actually broke him mentally.
Yeah, and that's real impressive. I think literally for that reason. So I've always kind of said this too. Moisés is probably one of the more technical and talented fighters in the UFC. He really is. Like, he doesn't have any flaws in his game. His jiu-jitsu is better than 99% of the guys in the UFC. He can wrestle, right? He took down Islam, didn't he?
Yeah. I think he might have had a brief takedown.
He took him down. I mean, so the dude can wrestle, which is, weird for a Brazilian to be able to wrestle. His jiu-jitsu is excellent. His striking is super just clean and technical, doesn't make any mistakes. And constantly and always, he always gets out physicaled. That's like his one thing is he just is like, he's like the little engine that could. He's going to stick around and he's really talented and fundamental, but he can only go so far on his athleticism. Where Klein's kind of the opposite. He's like so many holes in his game, but man, that dude's just a fucking diesel engine.
Yeah, I bet Moisés against Benoit Saint Denis because I thought he would be able to outlast Benoit and be able to take over as the fight went over, kind of like what Poirier did. And it was just another opportunity where he just folds to, so, and I don't really see Moisés really putting the pressure on Klein and making him wilt really. He's never been a super aggressive striker. One of the knocks that you can have on Moisés is he's low volume. Like he's very technical, but he's not very imposing.
Well, I mean, if you're taking out Mitch Ramirez and you're just doing it by leg kicks, like it's showing in a weird way, it's kind of showing timidity, right?
Yeah.
That southpaw look's going to make the leg kicks a lot harder. Now he's going to be forced to engage with hands. And, not that his hands are bad. His hands are maybe cleaner than Ľudovít's, but I think Ľudovít hits a lot harder and is more physical to impose himself.
Yeah, and he's a little bit more savage and fearless.
This is just a dicks on the table kind of fight. I love it.
I know. Yeah, and I will say this also. I liked Moisés a bit better when he was training at ATT, but he hasn't been there for the past year and a half. I want to say he's been back in Brazil, which I don't know.
That's super interesting.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's actually a big deal. I think even with Vicente Luque, that was a big deal. Not at ATT, but at Killcliff. All right, next up we have Puna Soriano versus Miguel Baeza. I'll go. I'm a chatty Cathy today. I bet Miguel Baeza to win 2,000 at minus, what was it? I think 151.
Oh, so you got in before the big move.
Yeah. I bet him $3,020 at minus 151 to win 2,000. That was my bet. What is he now?
He's minus 190 now.
Yeah, minus 190, minus 200. See, that's a lot for me because, the dynamic of this fight is super clear and obvious. You have a big puncher in Puna. Puna can wrestle. Big puncher, hits super, super hard versus a guy that's got no chin, or at least shown no chin, but all the skills in the world. For me at minus 151, that was a clear play. Let me always take the better guy versus the guy who's on a losing streak and feeling the need to move down weight classes. That shit never goes good. Baeza is an incredible black belt. Another guy whose grappling is phenomenal. The dude has zero weaknesses in actual skill set. It's just that chin. And if Puna were to come out and just go fucking nuts and just start swinging overhand lefts, I'd be like, all right, let me bet Puna KO. And that's the only play here. But Puna tries to take his time. And the issue is you break his rhythm. Now he has nothing else. It's not like he sets things up with a jab and then he's looking low kicks and starts breaking you down. It's let me land these big shots or I'm going to get stuck in the matrix. And that's what happened against Stoltzfus, who's one of the worst guys on the roster. If the UFC is not telling you they want Baeza to win here and a big bounce back because they can understand and recognize his talent, I don't know what does. Maybe the move down a weight class is good for Puna. Maybe it's forcing him to run more and improve his cardio and his conditioning. But even then, I think that Baeza is a better striker. I think Baeza is maybe not a better wrestler, but his grappling overall is real solid. So for me at 151, it was a great bet. Now I'm a little less excited by it, at least as a straight bet. But I think he wins.
Yeah, going back and watching the Puna versus Dustin fight last time, it's really it was really bad. He just looked lazy and slow and just like he didn't really care. I think every fight he's shown that he looks worse and worse, and it's usually the other way around at his
You know
age.
what, too? It's a product of we're seeing this at Fight Ready, right? We just got Casey O'Neill. She's running her camp here in Arizona. Amir Albazi moved from Vegas to Arizona. The thing that we see with the Vegas gyms is that everyone's pretty much coaching themselves. And, you know, when you're the best guy in the room, no one ever takes a round off of you, or it's all your buddies. And so you're not going really hard with each other. You're not like I don't love everybody I train with. There's the guys that I want to fuck up and I want to beat, and they want to beat me just the same way. And it pushes us to get better each time. Like, damn, this guy keeps fucking me up with the hands. How can I go past this? It seems like a lot of these Vegas guys are just like comfortable. They're just doing what they do. They show up to the gym every day, have fun with their bros, go running. They're at the PI, just hanging around, but you're not actually getting better. And there's such little coaching. And not only little coaching, there's like little coaches that actually know what they're talking about in Vegas. It's a lot of glorified mitt holders and a couple grappling guys or guys who used to wrestle. Really what Vegas is at this time is just a lot of good bodies in one room. Like there's no doubt about the talent that's there right now, but it's just good bodies in a room. It's not real coaching. And I think a lot more valuable these days, I would take a room with no good bodies, but a great coach over the opposite. And so I think that's why we keep seeing Puna regress, is he had a good skill set and he was really spry and hungry before. Now it seems like he's getting comfortable and like honestly kind of regressing. He's not even doing what kind of got him to the dance, as being that massive puncher tries to kill you. He's trying to be more refined, and that's actually taking him backwards.
Yeah. Like, and kind of when you go through a lot of his old performances and wins, they're kind of over people who kind of got exposed. And like his wins don't really age well either. Like the Dusko win. And looking back, Dusko's got a bad chin and everything, but he probably would have taken over had he if he was able to recover and get his grappling going, or, you know, just recover a bit and get through the round. I think he definitely would have taken over. I miss that dude.
He's so fun. He's a good grappler too.
I know. Yeah, Dusko is solid. But yeah, I remember around that time that he knocked out Dusko, he had Soriano had some hype. But yeah, all of his wins have aged pretty bad.
Maximov.
What do you think about the submission angle for Baeza? Do you think his wrestling will be good enough to get Puna down?
I do. The reason is he's kind of a freak athlete, Baeza. Like I know that Puna's good, but well, first of all, like I know Puna, and Puna wrestled at Wartburg College, which is like a D3 college, and they're like the powerhouse. They're like Penn State of D3. And he was very good, very solid. But watching the Maximov fight was kind of alarming, because like Maximov is only a wrestler, and Maximov was winning a lot of those positions and really wearing him out. And Maximov is like the least athletic guy in the world. He's just kind of a grinder. I think Baeza literally could get him working with the striking and then shoot the farthest away double leg and cut a corner, and then he's going to end up on top. Like Baeza, I think, is really, really nice, really, really good. So that submission angle is a great play, I think. One
of the best fights of the COVID era was Baeza versus Pons, and, you know, against Ponzinibbio. That was like, that fight is just so good. And that's when Ponzinibbio was a little bit better. You know, he's slowed down a little bit since then, but that was 4 years ago now. And that's just an all-time fight for me. And then you look at Baeza's other two losses. It's against Chaos Williams, who is just like a freak hitter, and the Fiallo one, which isn't a good look, obviously. So
Fiallo's a good striker, though, man.
It's not like he's been knocked out, you know, 4 times. You know, it's not. I don't think it's like a Jason Witt situation. He got knocked out twice. Like, it's not that uncommon. Plus, he's got the best nickname, Caramel Thunder.
Dude, I will say, he's probably the sexiest guy in the UFC. I know I'm wearing a Peyton Talbot shirt right now. What's that?
Such a porn star name.
Dude, hey, if he needs a tribute, a volunteer, I'm in.
Yeah, he's got an aura about him. I hope Baeza wins, and yeah, I'll be targeting the submission.
Dude, great play. I like that one too. Let's flip the line right now. Let's make it minus money.
Yeah, there's a couple props I'm looking at.
All right. Are we solid on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Julian Marquez and Zach Reese.
I can go with this one because I do have a play on this one. I played Julian Marquez when he was plus money at plus 112, and it's just a pure fade on this Zach Reese guy. I don't think he's UFC caliber. His skill set's very questionable. He hasn't fought past 2 minutes in a fight. I didn't like what I saw in the Brundage fight, even though it was super short. I didn't like the way he was reacting to getting hit. And then he's like a guard puller. So I think Marquez is kind of has the kryptonite to beat someone like Reese because I do think he can stay safe, if he's on top. I don't think he's going to get caught in a triangle or an armbar. And he's got great durability. He's got great cardio. He's a real fighter. He likes to brawl. So yeah, I think Marquez gets a finish in the first 2 rounds. Yeah, I'm just fading this Reese guy.
Dude, there's something holding me back against it though. Like, you lay out their records, you lay out everything you just said, and you're like, man, this is like pretty clear. Marquez has a granite chin. I've never seen someone get hit so fucking hard and just kind of like, dude, he's missing. If he's not autistic, he's knocking on the door for sure. I saw him at the UFL fights not that long ago, and he's just like, hey, he's just a big fucking goofy guy. Granite chin, kind of an idiot, which is not bad for him and his style. He's got real short, stubby arms, which I hate. Like, if we had an example of Zach Reese going 15 minutes and just Muay Thaiing and outpointing guys, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, he can win. Like, there's a lot of holes in Marquez's game and things that I don't like, but he's big, he's tough. He's fought so much better competition. He can go 15 minutes. He's beaten a lot of these guys. It's hard for me to just go like it's hard for me not to just launch Marquez at this price. Sorry, not at this price. It was pick'ems. Now I'm a little bit late to the train. But honestly, I think if you're betting Marquez, you just got to bet him inside the distance. You're right. Zach Reese is a guard puller. His striking is fine. It's not the worst, but you're right. When he got hit, it was alarming. I've said this for a while. Somebody has to know something inside that room. That's what's holding me off, is that somebody knows something about Zach Reese. Maybe he's getting some real high-level sparring, and somebody's like, man, he's going to kill Marquez, or, in talks with the UFC. I don't know. There's something up with this. I don't love it. Like, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, you never feel great about, laying it heavy on Marquez.
No, yeah, definitely not.
It's just the way I was kind of looking at it, it's like, this might be the last time to fade Zach Reese, and I missed
before
it with
we all
Brundage.
know.
Yeah, because, if he gets finished in round 1 and looks really bad, I mean, he probably won't fight in the UFC again. So,
who do you think would win a fight between Brundage and Marquez?
Oh, that's a good fight.
Because I'm like, man,
they're like the same person, except Marquez doesn't quit, so he probably would win.
I actually, that might be the only fight I think that Brundage could win.
Well, Marquez he doesn't get started till like he's been rocked, and Brundage, just because I've seen Brundage quit, and Marquez is the kind of guy that goes out on a shield, I would take Marquez.
What's funny is Brundage gets like really upset about this show. First of all, Santino is not hard on everybody, but for some reason Brundage he's really hard on. And he told Vanessa that he's like, why do those guys hate me so much? I'm like, we don't hate you, bro. It's fine. You ain't gotta feel weird to kick it.
I mean, I have ultimate respect for any fighter that makes it to the UFC. Like, it's so difficult to get to that.
Not me, man. Jerome Rivera made it to the UFC. What are you talking about?
Hey, man. If you run those fights back, maybe he has a chance.
No, he doesn't.
No, he got in fraudulently though, because what's his name got robbed on Contenders, the Mexican kid.
Who was the dude that Bruno Silva Bulldog, my little one, knocked out? The
Victor.
little Victor. Come on, man. You have respect for him? Come on.
Yeah. from Alaska FC. Him and Bruno and Adrian Yanez were got fed him.
Yeah, nice. He gets a good run. All right, then next up we have Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus.
Do you have a strong take on this one?
I mean, like everyone's really making a case for Dustin here. Dude, Dustin is fucking horrible. I'm sorry, you guys. He beat Puna, who just like literally stopped fighting and just kind of stood there. If there's any kind of recency bias, it's this one. Bruno knocked the fuck out of Phil Hawes. And Phil Hawes, skill for skill, is really talented. And he took down Phil several times. Like, I remember, I always knew that was the option, that he's going to knock out Phil Hawes. I had a bet on Phil Hawes. I knew, hey, this is a possibility at any time in this fight that could happen. And I kind of thought to myself, like, Phil will be winning this entire fight until he's not. But, like, that really wasn't the case. It was like, dude, he's fucking good. Like, I've said this for a long time about him. He knocked out RoboCop, knocked out Leon Alu. He doesn't really have like there's nothing you can just be like, dude, this guy sucks at this. Like, his one loss was in 1 minute and 17 seconds off kind of a weird shit. Like, he's good, I think. Like, he's fine. He's solid. Like, there's not really any holes in his game where like, man, this guy's horrible. And Stoltzfus, that fight with GM3 was like, it got to be one of the worst fights of all time. He's slow. He's clunky. He's everything. I don't know, man. I'm a big Stoltzfus hater. If you think that he gasses out Bruno and then paces him late, maybe. I just think that the skill disparity is and physicality is going to be so massive here. And Bruno finally gets to fight someone not so fucking tall. I like Bruno to probably finish him here.
That's a good point about the height thing, because he is pretty small for 185, and he's been fighting super tall guys. But I will say I would proceed with caution with Bruno, and I like the dude a lot. I was on him pretty big against Hawes. He's got a very solid skill set. The only thing is he hasn't fought outside of, 6 minutes in a fight. So I can't lay money like that on a favorite who hasn't fought outside of 6 minutes. And I do think that the speed and physicality and skill set is going to give Dustin a lot of trouble early, and Bruno is super live to get a round one finish. But if he doesn't get a round one finish, then this fight becomes very interesting, because we don't know how Bruno's cardio is going to be like as the fight goes on. And we do know that Dustin can fight 15 minutes. Maybe he's not the most durable guy. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the most technical guy, but he can wrestle for 15 minutes. And the Grant fight, obviously Grant's not great, but at least he was able to hit takedowns as the fight wore on. He was able to take over when Puna gassed out. So I think it's possible that happens too if he's able to make it out of round one. But yeah, his head movement is shitty, and Bruno's pretty explosive. So I could see him catching him early, but it's too risky for me as far as money line. I think it's more of a dogger pass for money line.
That's a massive price. It really is. Last thing I'll say about this, there's no reason to really believe that Bruno has bad cardio. It's not like he comes out and just swings hammers like from the get-go. He's weirdly really conservative for the amount of finishes that he has on his record. He fights within himself. And, being in Brazil and the doctors that they have out there, like, there's not really any evidence to suggest that his cardio is awful. Again, we're in the modern day of MMA. I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make and end up getting burned that way, is just being like, well, he's never been past 5 minutes. He's going to die. It's like Terrence McKinney, you can tell his cardio was horrible. You could have always told that just based on how he fights. But Bruno, I don't view in that same way. I think Bruno's better than actually people will give him credit for.
Yeah, no, he's solid, and he's still what? Well, he's 31, so yeah, he's in his prime. But he's already lost as a big favorite before against Nursultan, so yeah.
And if we ran that back, man, what would the odds be? Like, Nursultan's looked so much better than we thought.
So is he chinny too? Like, that was a weird stoppage. He went out from like hitting his head on the canvas. Not the best look, I'll say that. but you know, things like that happen. So I'm not going to hold it against him too much, but I'm also not going to trust him at major chalk.
I agree with you. All right, let's see what we have next.
This is the fight that they will not stop booking with Raul Rosas and Ricky Tercios.
And why do you suppose they're not going to stop booking this fight?
Just because I think it's a good stylistic fight for Rosas Jr., right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, I mean, it sounds like you are into it, so go ahead and go on this one.
Yeah, so I think Rosas should be able to handle business. I think he's got Tercios covered in every area except for proven cardio. Ricky's obviously built his game on just being able to out-scramble guys. But I think Rosas is just the much cleaner and better grappler, the stronger, more physical guy. I think takedowns are going to be able to be free for him. I was on Natividad against Tercios, and that was a super close fight. Kevin rocked him. You know, I love that Kevin Natividad guy. I've bet on him a lot, and he's a solid fighter. And yeah, he rocked Ricky a bunch. He was taking him down left and right. And Rosas, I just rate as like a much better version. So yeah, I like Rosas in this fight, and I think the KO is an interesting look. And KO1, KO2 maybe, because Rosas, I think he does have some underrated power. He's still super young, coming into his own physicality, and Tercios is so hittable. His defense sucks. He's been knocked out before. Kevin dropped him. So I think those KO 1-2 numbers are really solid. And yeah, I like Rosas in this spot.
I totally agree with you. I train with Kevin Natividad a lot. The dude is super heavy Hawaiian hips. He's a really good grappler in his own right. But you really think about the style matchup with him and Ricky, that was like the worst possible style for him. And he still did really, really well. I thought he won that fight, right? Mm-hmm. A guy that scrambles as good as Ricky does. It's kind of bad for a guy that's just got real stone, slow hips like Kevin, right? I know Rosas has been a little phenom since the shoot, right? He's always been huge on the scene in Vegas as far as jiu-jitsu. He did a little time out here at the lab. I'm pretty sure when you walk through the door there, they just give you a gift bag with some Osterine just to welcome you to Arizona. And we didn't even bring that up with Marquez. He's at the lab now too, which is important.
Oh yeah, that was another reason I had a little more confidence in him.
Yeah. I like Rosas here. I think his grappling's better. We saw his pre-UFC tape. He was able to go 15 minutes kind of at a ridiculous pace, like ridiculous pace. He was ragdolling that guy all over, crazy transitions to the back. Like he did 15, honestly, really impressively. Even against Mondo, that was a pretty insane pace too. Against C-Rod's got insane hips. Again, I used to train with them, used to know him, used to be friends with him. The dude's just like a little bowling ball, and it's really hard to move him. And he's calm. That's the other thing too, is usually as a fight goes, people fade together, but C-Rod just never really tapers off. And that's scary in its own right. That gets your heart pumping. And now when you can't get your game off, do we think Ricky is going to stone hips him and stop all the takedowns? I don't think so. I actually love that angle that you have, because I think that his power, it's significant. It is. And he could even take Ricky down, get his back, and finish, ground and pound that way too. I like Rosas. There's a reason the UFC keeps booking this fight. They understand where their golden goose is and stylistically what this will do for him. So yeah, give me Rosas. Sorry, Gugabi.
Yeah, and Rosas is he's so strong for being such a young kid. Do you know Anthony Orozco? The Cage Warriors prospect. Mm-hmm. He's at 170. He was a D1 wrestler, really solid grappler. He uploaded some footage on his TikTok of him and Rosas grappling, and Rosas is holding his own and like able to match his physicality. It was like a really solid, slick grappling match. And that's a huge 170er that Rosas is able to roll with. So
he's not 170.
Oh, Orozco is not 170?
No. He's like a 45 or a 55.
Oh, is he? He looks huge then.
Yeah, no. He's not that big.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Maybe he's a 55er. He looked pretty big. I don't know. But yeah, anyhow, Yeah, there's some really big numbers on the KO 1 and 2 that I'm gonna hit tomorrow. Yeah, give me Rosas all day.
All right. Well, then we are at our co-main event. This has been an awesome pod. Like I like chatting it up with you because I learn a lot and it kind of gives me a different angle. Santino is very good, but he's not like a better. And so it's like, yeah, I think this guy, he does, whatever. Okay. We have Dominic Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby.
I took the plunge and I have bet Reyes today. Listen, I get he could be shot and he could be done and his chin is, beyond repair and he's got too many medical issues. He's destroyed mentally, emotionally, all of that. But if he's anything close to what he was when, he was fighting Vulcan and John and even Yuri, like the Yuri first round was really good. Like he's just fought the way better competition. And Jacoby is getting up there in age. He's very hittable himself. He doesn't have any grappling upside. I took Reyes. I'm not going big because I know it's a risky bet.
But it's like the Baeza bet, but even worse.
It's just if it doesn't hit and Reyes is washed or his chin is gone, good for Jacoby. But I'm going to be there at plus 195 in a potential spot where he looks like a massive favorite. I don't think it's going to hit, but I was kind of thinking that submission could be a sneaky angle for Reyes. And the numbers are absolutely massive. It's like 22-1 on the submission.
It should be 52-1.
You think there's no shot?
There's zero chance.
I know Jacoby's like he's pretty good at like working his way back to his feet and, but he has been submitted before in the past. Anyhow, either way, I think the value is on Reyes and I'm taking a dog shot on him. What do you think?
I actually really wanted to be here with you. And that's why I wanted you to go first because I actually agree with you. And I tell this story every time. Jacoby is my biggest bet ever. I put 40 grand on Jacoby one time.
Was that the Darren Stewart one?
Yeah, but I ended up losing because Razak Al-Hassan knocked out Deshirico. So that ended my...
Oh, it was a parlay?
2-fight parlay. Yeah, this is before I knew anything that I was doing. And I was like, man, KO1 for Dustin Jacoby. That's awesome. And then the second fight came and I cried in the hotel room, lost 70 grand.
There's nothing worse than losing your... the last leg of your parlay on like a huge one and you just know it's going to happen like leading up to it.
I was already planning on like the videos. I was going to go full lucrative on it. I was going to be like in the Maldives and fucking showing off a rental car and shit like that. I was already planning it, but it never had happen that way. Here's the thing. I never thought that Reyes was that good. Like, actually, like, his arms are so short. I never really thought he was that good, ever. I still don't think he's that good. So now he's not that good and has no chin. And somehow I still think he could possibly win this. But the issue is he's had such little cage time. And Jacoby fights, honestly, kind of a lot. And it's not like Jacoby is just, how do I say this? He's not really a one-punch guy, although he has one-punched people before. He used to be kind of a big hitter, right? He put out a lot of guys, like even on Contender Series and some of those earlier fights, he looked great, was knocking guys out. And since then, he's kind of resorted to just being a minute winner, point fighter, jab, and low kick guy until he gets chinned, which we always knew the day was going to come when he got chinned. Like, what is Reyes' confidence like? Is he able to touch guys in the gym? And now you have a guy who's like super tall, super rangy, kind of sees everything in front of him. I hate this fight altogether. To me, this is a pass. There's no way you can play Jacoby at minus 200 or whatever he is. And I know that sounds weird because he is a minute winner and Reyes definitely could be shot, but I think that Reyes is a lot more athletic and he could put volume together and make stuff happen. I don't know. I'll put it like this. I think Jacoby wins the fight. I think all the value is on Reyes. And for me personally, I'm just going to pass on this fight. I don't even feel good with an over or under or a prop. I haven't looked at Jacoby KO, but I imagine it's stupid. It's not even worth it.
Yeah, it's weird that they placed this as the co-main event too. Like,
there's so many better fights.
And Jacoby's 1-3 in his last 4, and Reyes has lost 4 in a row. So it's like, why are they booking this? Or is this like a free win for Jacoby? Like, they know Reyes is shot, or are they trying to bring Reyes back into the scene because he was a very hyped prospect that they were pushing for a while?
Yeah, but just how many more fights do you think he actually would have, even if he won this one, you know?
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. It's weird. This is weird matchmaking, I'll say that. And it's weird placement on the card too, with having it being the co-main event. I don't understand that part.
They should have put wait, who's the feature prelim?
That's Moisés versus Klein.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, Moisés versus Klein.
I'm hoping we get another one of those head kick KOs from Klein.
It sure seems like it. You know, on bare knuckle, the spot you always want to bet on is the feature prelim. It's always like the biggest setup spot. It's the easiest one on the card. And usually that's kind of how it is with the UFC too. Yep. I'm really surprised it's not Miguel Baeza.
Yeah. Is that the first? Well, that's the first fight on the main card. So sometimes, you know, they put a very exciting card or fight as the first on the main also. Yeah.
All right. So that takes us to the main event. We have Nasruddin Imavov and Jared Cannonier. What are your thoughts on this one?
I just saw the venue that this place is called is the KFC Yum Center. That is the most ridiculous name for an arena I've ever heard of.
When the Cardinals Stadium out here in Phoenix was first opened up, there was a local Mexican place that actually bought the naming rights before it became University of Phoenix and all that stuff. Do you know this story already?
No, I don't.
They were going to name the stadium Pink Taco Stadium. The Pink Taco Stadium. And then the NFL, I think, was like, actually, let's probably not do that.
Yeah, that's great. This matchup is super interesting as well. I'm like a known like huge Imavov fan, so I'm probably a little bit biased. Cannonier has looked so good in his past couple fights, but he's 40 years old and he's getting rocked in all of his fights. I think he's like eventually he's gonna get finished in round 1 or round 2, and I'm gonna predict that it's in this fight that Imavov is going to be able to find the finish, potentially a club and sub. I think that could be an interesting angle. The only thing I don't love about Imavov is his cardio isn't that good. For some reason, I thought the Dolidze performance was a little bit better than it actually was.
It wasn't great.
I know. I went back and watched, and I was like, because I was on Imavov big, and then going back and watching, I'm just like, Roman just looks bad, you know, very clunky and slow. And Imavov, he showed his issues with slowing down as the fight went on. It wasn't the best performance. But I do kind of think that, like, Cannonier is due to get finished. Like, he's getting rocked in all of his fights in round 1, and he's getting older now, too. So it's like, I think it's either Imavov by finish within the first 3 rounds or Cannonier by decision. I guess I wouldn't be shocked if Cannonier got a late finish. I don't know. Like, that performance against Vettori was just unreal. Like, the amount that he put up and how he was still landing huge shots late in the fight. I don't know what that motherfucker is on, but he is in insane shape.
Well, him and Mario Batista, have you ever seen 2 performances like that?
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know. They must have the best strength and conditioning program there.
Mike's MMA picks would be super happy about that one.
Yeah.
40 years old.
I like Imavov. I don't want to pick against him, though. I kind of want to just play into Cannonier getting rocked early because I think the speed and accuracy of Imavov early is going to give him some issues in round 1. I mean, fucking Derek Brunson rocked him in round 1 and nearly choked him out. Vettori stumbled him. He gets rocked in every round 1. So I'm hoping Imavov can get the club and sub in round 1. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm actually the exact same line of thinking. I think honestly, you're maybe silly to even play Imavov as a money line because like look at Dolidze. Dolidze was gassed like 3 minutes into that fight, and I had a couple bets on Roman, right? Because I had heard the training room stories of Dolidze, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy into the hype. I'm gonna bet him. One of the worst bets ever. And even still, late into the fight, there was a couple of times where I'm like, oh man, I feel some hope. Maybe he can pull this off. And that's crazy for a guy that was so much fresher and so much better. Like the level, the skill level disparity was so massive. And there were still times where I was like, dude, he could get this. He could pull this off. This is where the fight changes. I think that Imavov melts, man. I really think he's a mental midget. He is like what an amazing round 1, round 2 fighter. He's sharp, he's aggressive, he's nasty. He is so freaking good. And every fight, time and time again, he fades so hard, which is why I can't believe the line is actually the way that it is. Because you have a guy who put the beating of a lifetime on Vettori, never slowed down in a 5-round fight against a guy that's got cardio issues. It seems like a no-brainer to me that Cannonier has to be the side, right? And to me, I would bet Imavov round 1, round 2 as KO as a hedge, because you know the later this fight goes, like Cannonier can melt him. Cannonier hits hard, man. He used to be a heavyweight. He carried a lot of that power with him. The dude is crazy leg kicks. Like I don't know. I'm with you. I could see him getting melted in the first or second round, but after that, I think he'll settle into the fight. That EPO kicks in, and this is one-way traffic after that, I believe.
Yeah. The thing with the durability with him getting up there in age, it's like sometimes you have to just try to capitalize on those angles because you know it's eventually going to catch up to him. And I kind of feel like this is the spot where it does, because based on tape and like watching their old fights, it seems like Cannonier should be able to win easy. But yeah, I just have that feeling where Imavov is going to rock him. And the thing is with Imavov, his ground and pound is very weak. Like, he couldn't get Dolidze out. I know Dolidze's just like got a brick head, but even when he finished Heinisch, it was kind of like a Heinisch quitting. He doesn't have the best follow up, so I could see get a club and sub. I mean, Brunson almost got it on Cannonier, so I know Imavov likes his front chokes, so I think I wouldn't get cute with like KO1, KO2. I think just round 1, round 2, because it could potentially be a club and sub.
I'm actually, so just for the people that keep track of this, I think I'm actually going to pick Imavov too, because I do agree with you that like there is, so based on the tape, I would say it's a Cannonier no-brainer, like the guy that fades, like versus the cardio freak based on tape. But just, yeah, like I'm kind of with you as a gut feeling and narratives and all that stuff. I think Imavov is going to pull out the performance of a lifetime and probably put Jared away.
Yeah, because then you would feel like an idiot if you bet Cannonier off. I feel like the time to have bet Cannonier was the last fight. And now I feel like if I bought on now, it's the fight where he ends up getting finished, and I feel like an idiot. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
All right, man. Well, this has been an awesome pod. We did an hour and almost 45 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Do you have anything to plug? And if you say fight numbers, we'll just have someone edit that part out. We'll have it to fight chalk.
Come on, bro. We're gonna have you on one of our pods soon. Yeah. Brandon knows I'm part of Fight Numbers. Me, Evan, Ozzy, and Chad, and John Kelly. We got some cool stuff going on over there. Follow me on Twitter at Pepe_Sylvia716. And yeah, man, thanks for having me on. I've always wanted to break a card down with you, so happy to do so. Hopefully we have a good week, and yeah, appreciate it.
All righty, man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.